Good morning, Simon Thomas, Managing Director of Ridgefield Consulting.
Hello, Helen Thomas, the CEO of Blonde Money.
And is it 2 weeks already?
I can't even
Today?
say. Is it 2
must
weeks
be.
today? Yeah, it is, since the general election.
Wow,
Wow.
time flies, doesn't it?
Do you feel like actually it's been much longer than that? I sort of is and it isn't, isn't it? Yeah, it's...
I know. Well, yeah, it feels longer.
Well, so here's the thing. I was in Westminster yesterday for
Oh,
the
right.
state opening of Parliament, and I was
Mhm.
actually walking around the Houses of Parliament, and it was like chaos. It's like Freshers' Week.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Well,
'cause
people don't know what they're doing,
no one,
where they're going.
no one, exactly. Because that's usually the case anyway, right?
Yeah.
When you've got a new government. But remember, this is one where Labour won so many MPs that loads of them are new.
Yeah, yeah. So
Loads of the Conservatives lost or stepped down.
yeah.
Even the Conservatives have new ones, and so basically,
It's like a brand new school of...
yeah,
And they don't know where anything is.
panic kids.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, think about it, because it's the government that are new as well, haven't been in for 14 years, Labour Party. It's like a new school, new kids, but a new head teacher, new head teacher who's never run a school before.
There is a bar in there, though, isn't there?
Oh yeah, I went to two of them. That was actually that was funny because the guys who work there were going, "Oh, hello, you're right." Actually, the
Oh,
funny.
so you've been there more often than some of them.
And I saw Richard Tice marching around
Right.
of Reform,
Oh, yeah.
and I was thinking, what's he doing here? And then I realised he's an MP now.
Maybe.
He works there. Really weird.
So
Anyway.
2 weeks afterwards, we've just got a list of things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So this King's speech that was launched yesterday.
Yeah.
I'll just run through.
We'll just go through them. We might say something, we might not.
Number one, plan to build more houses. This is
well-
a big one. This is a big one. Rachel Reeves loves this. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Do we? Well, the houses are going up. I mean, you look at Oxford and the traffic. We're going on about the traffic again, but the houses are going up everywhere, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
They were
Look
going
at
up
Bicester.
everywhere anyway.
Look around Bicester. Bister's
Yeah.
just gone, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think Whitney,
Oh, yeah,
the
Whitney
towns
is-
and Wallingford, they're all actually. If you think about it, there's housing developments. Yeah.
A40.
Yeah. They're all over, but they're going to build more. But then, I actually always wonder whether this ties into immigration or not. But
Well, it does,
It does,
because
doesn't
if
it?
you've got, because we just had the figures actually, last year had the highest net migration in, decades. I can't remember the exact date, but decades. So we've got a lot of new people where they're all going to live. And
Well,
how quickly
yeah.
can you build a house? You've got a lot of construction clients.
Yeah, well, good business for them, I suppose.
Yeah, that's good.
More stamp duty as well. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people move around. Okay, that's that one. Nationalising the railways.
Well, that's just Labour, isn't it?
Well, you say that, Simon, but during COVID, the Conservative government effectively nationalised them because no one was travelling on them. So they had to. So what are you going to do? Because you still need people to keep the tracks going, and obviously no one went anywhere, but you've still got railways. So I mean, I don't know what your.
I think it's a cyclical thing, isn't it, with privatising?
What, it goes one way and then
yeah,
it'll go back.
like government. There's only so many years, and then it'll go back the other way again. But I'm not too. Yeah, well,
Okay.
not much to say. I haven't got much to say about that, really. No.
There's going to be employment rights, workers' rights. They're going to get a lot more rights from day one. Actually, this is an interesting question because you run a small business, I run a small business, lots of clients are small businesses. Does it make you less likely to hire someone, or is that just nonsense because you have to hire people? So
No, I don't think it does. It doesn't. No,
what?
but
Less likely doesn't make you
no,
less
it doesn't.
likely.
It doesn't affect it. If you get to a certain size and you stop using, when you start off and you're small like I did, well, you use we still use subcontractors. Well, we started off with subcontractors because you don't want to get in the bigger role of all the pensions, everything that you have to do for employees, national insurance and everything, and the extra hit and the cost. But obviously, once you get to a certain size, then the trade-off is just the control side of it, isn't it, of having an employee? But I think when you get to a certain size, you have to have employees. But I don't think. I don't think policy changes anything. It's just harder when things happen, and then you have to go into you have to use the lawyers and get to the situation with where things are. And the crazy thing is when you have conversations with people about when some of these things are happening, externally, that people are always flabbergasted about how unfair it sort of appears to the employer.
Oh, I see. When you really go through it with people.
Yeah.
Well, this is the balance, isn't it? Employees, employers.
But I think, I don't know, I mean, he's a human rights lawyer, isn't he?
He is.
So, you know, that's hardly a surprise, is he?
Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't talk about that.
Right, so anyway, moving on to the next one. Better buses.
Better buses?
Yeah,
How do they get any better? More electric? More hydrogen?
I'm not quite sure exactly, but, well, here in Oxfordshire...
Bigger? Bendier?
Well, actually, I think the opposite. I think you should have more but smaller and more frequent. Don't you think?
Smaller and more frequent.
Because isn't the main issue with a bus that it doesn't turn up, you stood in the rain for half an hour, and that's what makes it annoying to take
and
a
then
bus.
of course they two all come at the same time.
Yeah.
Smaller
I mean,
ones,
obviously, well, that's my view, but I mean, here in Oxford, of course, they don't ever want you to take your car anywhere, so we could do with better buses.
What, they're going to put trams here?
Will
They're going to put a tram from one Oxford Brook to the other.
That would have
From
been
Headington
good.
to Botley.
That would have been good.
That would have been
I
good.
like trams.
Yeah, trams are good. Yeah, forget the buses. There's more trams.
More trams, but we were born in Blackpool, so...
So yeah, I like trams.
Great British Energy Bill. So this is where the government's going to create this Great British Energy entity, which is going to, they say, make it more secure how we get our energy and hopefully then lower bills. I haven't. It sounds
some
good.
Weird Russian thing.
No, it's to avoid. Yeah, it's to avoid relying on, well, not just Russia, but anyone in the future. It's basically saying it's a bit like nationalising the railways without nationalising it.
Yeah, but is it also a covert way to keep using fossil fuels and under some sort of...
Well, I think it's more the other way. I think it's more like if you have this Great British... Because to move away from fossil fuels to renewables is very expensive, right? And requires a lot of investment. And actually the pure incentive for a business, well, you know, like any business, right? You're not going to sink money into building a wind farm if you're not going to make any money out of it.
No.
And then if everyone decides that, you don't get any wind farms built.
No.
So you kind of need the public money to come in. The government have to subsidise it in some way. So I think it's that kind of idea of using government money to get the private sector.
Right. And actually, I was also going to say, because there's about 10 things here, we've done 4 of them, and none of them are really to do with the taxpayer and his pound in the pocket. But this one, interestingly, could bring with it, you know, because of all the things we talked about before, SEIS, EIS, R&D tax credits, you know, could there be some new relief or new investment opportunities?
What, you mean if it was like a renewable project?
Yeah, I mean, there are things for those anyway, but maybe something will come out of
it. It could go that way, yeah. A couple more here. Children's well-being. Actually, within this bill is going to be what we talked about for ages, which is VAT on private school fees.
Right.
So the idea is you levy the VAT on private schools and you use it to get funding for more teachers. So they reckon they're aiming that this could create 6,500 more teachers, which isn't actually a lot of teachers.
How many schools are there? It doesn't sound a lot, does it?
No. But this is the point about not promising the earth if you haven't got the money to do it. Renters' rights is another one. You've probably got quite a lot of landlords.
Renters. Oh yeah, actually, one of the people I played football with the other day was one of the main things he said to me.
What he was worried about?
No, a policy that he was really. No, he's a tenant.
Oh, he's a tenant.
That was a thing that he was really
keen on.
Yeah.
I think it's basically, you know, you can't get just kicked out at the whim of the landlord, and also that you can expect a decent standard of living in the house, and that they have to commit to certain
levels.
Energy efficiency and stuff.
I bet it's not going to cross over to commercial, though, is it?
Why, do you want to talk to your landlord?
Oh yeah.
We've just got air conditioning installed, so you can't complain too much.
Just signed a 5-year lease. 2.5 years into the lease.
Oh,
there we go.
There you go.
And the air conditioning's gone in, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's no power.
There's no power on it.
There was an argument about who's got to put the new fuse board in, and they want us to pay for it, and I'm saying no.
Oh, okay, let's not get into that.
If you're watching this...
Don't.
Please, can you put the fuse board in?
No, that's exactly what we don't want to do. Okay. Right. I've saved the best till last.
Right.
Which is all the stuff about tax and spend.
No, right, okay.
So, the OBR...
Yes.
Which we've all heard a lot about now, Office of Budget Responsibility.
Sounds important, doesn't it?
Well, it was only created in 2010.
What, Osborne?
Yeah, exactly, Osborne. Partly as a way to sort of put difficult decisions over to somebody else so that you can blame them. So the idea being that, because you remember with Liz Truss's budget
Oh, yeah.
that she didn't get an OBR forecast. So
Right.
the argument is the OBR should be mandated to produce forecasts. So basically, you can't do a budget without the OBR. That's what
Right.
they're going to legislate for.
I see. Okay.
And they're going to say that any big tax or spending commitment that's worth more than 1% of GDP, this is what I think is going to be in the bill, will have to have the OBR do an impact survey.
Right.
What does this mean for the economy? It basically means you can't just, a government in the future won't just be able to stand up and say, oh, I'm removing that rate of tax, or I'm...
If it doesn't fit within this bandwidth of...
It basically, the OBR, you can't just do it tomorrow.
No.
Right, the OBR have to have the time to sit and make the forecast,
Right.
to do the analysis.
Mm.
And of course, with this being legislated, it doesn't just tie the hands of this government, it will tie the hands of all future
Oh, right.
governments, unless they repeal the law, which...
So do they think this is a big ticket item, this one, then, in terms of their legacy or something?
Yeah, well, they think two things. Yes, important legacy, but secondly, really, it's to show their credibility. Right? They are they so want to show you and the market
that they actually know what
that they know what they're doing, and they're not
yeah.
going to do anything irresponsible with taxpayer money, that they're legislating for it. The only thing is, when you start legislating for this sort of thing, you can't legislate for all scenarios. So,
and it's, well, you know what we're like about rules. I mean, you know, it's more rules. It's more rules. It's like another audit. It's another audit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a pre-audit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a pre-audit.
Yeah. So then, here's the thing: whenever you have rules, you can get weird, unintended consequences. So you then might down the line get. I'm not saying this government would do it, but eventually you might get someone say, "Oh well, under the words of the rule, it's not a significant. Cutting tax isn't significant because it has to be done because this group in society are going in emergency. It's an emergency situation. We've got to get it done." Do you know what I mean? It's always very hard to legislate for all eventualities. I mean, like the pandemic turned up and the government suddenly spent £400 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to allow for national emergencies, but then it becomes, what's a national emergency?
And then Lewis Litt... Oh, do you watch Suits or not? No? Did you watch Suits?
No, I haven't.
You'll have to go and look at bylaw 2489 to...
Oh, really?
To make sure that it's all allowed. Yeah.
Is that a famous thing from it?
No.
Oh, you made that? Okay.
But
I was going to go around
two things on that.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of Conservatives or some of the harder right side actually liked some of Liz Truss's policies. And again, correct me if I am wrong. What actually happened was it was completely nothing would have protected against this. Protected against, it was almost unprotectable against. To know that outcome could have happened.
Okay, yes, in a specific way, because what really exacerbated the Liz Truss situation, there are a lot of things that went wrong, some that you could have known about, some you couldn't have, but the thing that really made the market go into meltdown was this LDI.
Yeah, the liability-driven investments on the pensions.
Funds, exactly.
And to do with the cash flows of swaps on.
Exactly.
And redeeming of bonds, yeah.
So that is very niche, and it looks like nobody really understood how large that impact, how big their positions were, and how much it would be affected. Well, I say nobody knew. There were some people in the sector warning about it months before, and the Bank of England had conducted some analysis about the pensions world. In fact, they did some stress testing on them and said it was all okay.
Right.
So, is that they got their stress testing wrong, or is it that nobody could have known about it?
So
it's like, all market wobbles. It's like, do you remember?
Maybe they should go and consult some hedge funds instead of the OBR then.
Well, you're not wrong in a sense, because you need to talk to people in the market to know what is going on in the market. It's a bit like it's a bit like a football match, and people bet on football matches. If someone turned up that day and didn't know the intricacies of Leicester City's back four, they might not be able to have a good guess on how many yellow cards would be awarded in the match.
No.
So the market for yellow cards isn't necessarily known about by everybody.
No.
And actually, that point about the OBR has only been around since 2010. I mean, 14 years isn't that long in the scheme of what's happened and how the market's changed. The market's got a lot bigger. I mean, LDIs have got a lot bigger.
Yeah.
You were, Simon, actually.
When you used to be
a pension.
Audit pension schemes, that was a big move away from bonds. You used to wait for bond redemption to match your pension liabilities. Your payouts were based on bond redemption, but obviously that was quite a long period of time. But when swaps came in, they were able to redeem them a lot. They can interpret the cash flows a lot quicker.
Yes, so it was like it was considered a really useful innovation.
Yeah, because you could then match your pension scheme liabilities against your cash flows to ultimately pay for them. And then what that knock-on effect is it means, and there was this thing with FRS 17 that came in, which was a few years ago, where companies had to start putting the pension scheme liability on their balance sheet, which was a huge hit. So obviously, that was it gave a bit more comfort to knowing what those sorts of figures were, because, I mean, remember it was the 80s, there were contribution holidays. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
people are over-contributing to pension schemes. It just doesn't seem feasible anymore, does it? And these are actors who've obviously got all that. They're really intelligent guys.
Well, maybe the OBR is a bit like the OBR is like the actuary.
The actuaries,
And then the market is the reality of what actually happens. Because what happened, as you say, with these innovations, FRS 17, new rule, we just talked about putting a new rule in, and then what happens is, of course, because it's on the company's balance sheet, they then have to look for ways to reduce the liability, don't they? Which is what led them into LDIs, or encouraged it. Because they got promised
to manage it,
this will be managed better. I mean, the point in life is you can't actually get rid of risk completely. Anyway.
Finishing off,
I
don't bet, but I heard the other day that you can now, on these betting apps, you can bet, if your player goes off and the substitute comes on and he scores a goal, you bet. So if you bet on Kane to score, and Ollie Watkins subs in and comes on the score, you still win your bet.
Really? Is that a new rule?
It's just a new type of bet.
Sorry, it's a specific bet.
Yeah, because now you can bet on corners, red cards, yellow cards. You're saying.
Hang on, but sorry, do you bet on?
I think you bet on Kane.
All right, but if he
goes substituted and Ollie Watkins comes on and scores, you bet. I was thinking, how can they? It's a
how do you even price that?
Yeah, how do you even price that?
To hedge yourself as the bookie, anyway.
So
there you go.
On that bombshell. Oh no, that's a Clarkson thing, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Don't be Clarkson. Well, look, there you go. That's a quick run gallop through the King's speech.
Yeah, very good. And nothing particularly. Well, the only really tax rate, the VAT on school fees, but lots of other sort of quite big ticket items. And like you said, it's interested that credibility you want. That's interesting to think how they want to do that to look credible. And we shall see.
I suppose
maybe we'll do in a few weeks. We'll do another summary and see how we're getting on.
Exactly.
Or we should do the 100 days of Trump. Oh, we haven't talked about Trump.
I know. Well, let's do a different one on Trump. Next time.
Yeah.
And we'll wear hatches on our ears.
And that's goodbye from me.
Yeah, and goodbye from me.